Yo, what's up guys? The blueprint to go from point 1 to 100 SOL as a beginner trader has never been more simple. You've seen people hitting crazy axes and flexi P&Ls, wishing that you could do the same thing. But without a big portfolio at the start, it almost seems impossible. So I'm here to show you the platforms, the tools, and the psychology pro traders use to find insane coins and grow their portfolios. I've personally been documenting my journey for about a couple of weeks now of myself going from point 1 to 10 SOL just to show everyone that it's actually possible, and in 2025 you can still grow a smart memecoin portfolio. Now if you guys haven't already, you should definitely check out Axiom, which is a trading platform which is being used by many pro traders and myself included. It's one of the best trading platforms out there, and that is for a reason, because there are so many powerful tools you can use. It literally gives you like rewards. If you look over here at my notifications on Axiom, you can literally see of me being received SOL, which is basically free SOL. Like look at this, 0.04. But if you can stock up these amounts, it will pile up and become a big amount of SOL. The link for Axiom is gonna be in the description of this video. So now you're looking at this screen, and there are so many coins, so many things to look at, which is why we need the filters. And the filters are gonna filter out so you can only see the best coins with the most potential. But we wanna see every coin. We just wanna see coins that are gonna get us money, right? So on Axiom we have new pairs, final stretch, and migrate. New pairs are just basically newbie coins, and let me just zoom in so you can guys see everything better. So in new pairs, you can see that these coins were literally created like seconds ago. Like look at this, 25 seconds ago, 16 seconds ago. These are coins that basically are popping out every single second, and we don't want to see all of them, right? So let's go over here. You click on filters and you can set it up. So for protocols, which are basically platforms where people launch coins, we don't want to see all of these platforms because all of them pretty much are useless. They have no volume and no good coins are being launched on them. That's why many pro traders, myself included, are only using Pump and Bonk, which are the two biggest platforms and the two best platforms that the coins are being launched on. Of course, you can enable all of these different platforms, but you'll just see a bunch of coins that I personally wouldn't trade, so we just want the best for us. Then code tokens, which it doesn't really matter. And now for audit settings. Basically for new pairs, you only want to see fresh coins to just created, because if they didn't get any volume, they didn't get any buys on them, then that means that they're just irrelevant. So you want to set up the age of maximum to 30 seconds. So you put in 30 seconds over here, and you change this from not hours, not minutes, but seconds, which I found the best for me. And then you go down to dev holdings, which is kind of hard, dev holding percentage, and you set up the max over here to 5%, because we don't want the person who created the coin, to hold a lot of the percentage of it, because if the dev just sells, the coin is gonna go pretty much to zero if he holds above 5%. Now let's go over here to metrics, and here I have nothing, and on socials I have nothing, because new pairs are very newbie coins and we don't want too many settings on those. Now let's go to final stretch. Final stretch is like the middle ground coins. They're not too giant, they're not too popular, but they're getting there, and so they're gonna go to migrated, which is the final stage of the coin. And for this final stretch, we also want only the top protocols, Pump and Bonk. But over here we want to change more settings because we just want to be more selective, a little bit more selective with these coins. So this age is basically for how long you're gonna see the coin. So right now I have it set to 60 minutes, not seconds, but 60 minutes, because the volume is just kind of low. And there are not too many buyers, and a lot of coins do just take a long amount of time for them to run. Of course, you can change this to like 15 minutes, you can change it to, I don't know, 100 minutes. It depends on the volume and depends on how the market is in that day. And when you scroll down, you see the holders. We want the holders to be a minimum 10, because that's just gonna block out a bunch of the rocks and bring out more natural volume coins. Now let's go over to metrics. where you can set the market cap, which is basically this over here. So the market cap of the coin, you want to set it up to 10,000, just so you don't see the 7,000 amount coins that have no volume. So 10,000 that is. And then below that, for global fees, you want to set up 0.2 so that you filter out the rocks. And then we go to migrated, same protocols, but you want to change the audit to minimum of 50 holders and the metrics to a minimum of 50k market cap. So the coins that go to zero, we don't want to see them over here on this panel. We want to see active coins that still have potential, so we set it up to 50,000. Now that we set up the filters, let's go to pretty much the second most important thing on Axiom, which is your wallet tracker. So if you go on down left, you see this wallet tracker, you click on it, it's gonna pop out either on this side or on this side. You can change, you can just drag it and drop it to whatever side you want. So yeah, I can just move it over here. But you will not see anything over here because you'll have to import the wallets. And why would we want to do this? Why would we want to have these random people over here trading? Well, because these people are mostly KOLs, and what KOL stands for is either it's a big wallet, so a person with a big amount of capital in their wallet, or just an influencer trading. It means that if the influencer of the KOL on your wallet tracker gets into a coin, it's gonna have more volume because of all the people that are doing the same thing. They're tracking these people to see what coins they buy. So for example, a YOLO, this guy, he has quite a bit of following. So if we go over to this coin, if we look at this bubble where the KOL actually bought in, you can see how much it pumped, and you can also see how much the KOL bought. He bought almost $2,000 worth of this token, which is why it went up, and it's totally gonna go up because people are gonna see that this guy just bought it, and it's gonna get more traction because of it, because people are tracking his wallet. And you can do the same thing, so you can get into the coins early, just like these KOLs do. So if you want a wallet tracker just like this, with biggest KOLs and people who've made literally millions and millions on memecoin markets, just go over to my Discord, which is gonna be in the description, and you can find the wallet tracker in there. It's completely free with a ton of free resources, just like this wallet tracker I'm showing you right now. So now you have this wallet tracker, you have the filters set up. Now let's click on one of the coins. So why would we need information on the coin? So before we look at how good the coin is and the narrative on it, we first have to see what does the coin actually look like, and there's a lot that goes into it. So over here on the right, you're gonna see all this token info, which is basically what we need. Here you're gonna see top 10 holders, which basically stands for how much of the percentage of the token top 10 people hold. So it can mean that, let's say here it has 22%, which is basically fine. Even though it's still red, 22% is not actually a lot, because if you think it's scattered around 10 people, so it's not too bad. Next is the dev holding, which at this case is 0%, because if we look at the start over here at this bubble, you can see DS, which basically stands for dev sold. So the dev is not holding any of the token, and just how I told you before, if the dev is holding a lot, if he sells, the coin is pretty much gonna go to zero right away. Next thing is snipers, which is at this case 1%, so it doesn't mean anything. Snipers is basically the people who just instantly get into a coin when it pops out. If they're out of snipers, you should be cautious, because if they sell, the coin is gonna go to zero as well. Insiders are basically wallets that got sent the tokens. So basically, if I would send to my other wallet the tokens of this coin, then that wallet would be considered an insider, and you don't want to be out of insiders, because that means that a person sent a lot of tokens to another wallet and he can sell both at the same time. So he's not gonna sell a lot, which means that the coin is gonna go down by a lot. If that makes sense. That's a pretty bad explanation, but I hope it makes sense. Next thing are bundles, which in this case is 7%, which is basically fine. Bundles stand for the wallets that are holding the token together. So it's not just one wallet that's holding 7%, it's scattered around different wallets. So it's basically people try to split the percentage of the token between different wallets so it looks less suspicious, which is basically why we need this token info, so we can see if the coin is actually good or not. And 100% LP burn just means that the liquidity on the coin has been burned. Now if you look down here, you can basically see the same info. We have holders, which basically stands for how many holders are there in the coin right now. So there are 300 people that are holding the coin, or should I say 300 wallets. And down here you can see is the sell balance, how much they buy with, and the average price they bought at. You can see how much they've sold by now, and you can see their P&L, which is basically how much money they made, and the remaining of how much they still will have in the coin. And then funding basically stands for the platform that they bought the coin from. So here you can see icons like bundlers, which we just talked about, and for example these like new wallets, so it basically means that the wallet was just created. So this info is really important for us, because when you click on any coin you should look at this info, and it gives you a whole lot of knowledge on the coin, because you now know if the bundlers are holding a lot, if the dev is holding a lot, if not then it's good, if yes then it's bad. And last thing about the info you need on the coin is the bubble map. So if you click on this, it's gonna open up the bubble map, which basically shows us this info of the bundles and the walls holding this coin, but just in a more simple way. So you can see that all of these walls just bought the coin, but these walls are bundles. This is basically one person who just bought the token on 3 different wallets, because he's trying to have every wallet hold less of the percentage of the token, so it seems less suspicious. And same with this guy bought the token, but then he split it up between 2 different wallets, so it looks less suspicious. Now that we covered the boring stuff and you got all the info you need on the coin, let me now explain why the coins actually run. And by run I mean go up high, so they go from new pairs to final stretch to migrated and then even higher. So if a coin runs, it means that it's a good coin and it's going up in price. So here on my final stretch I can right now see a coin called Hood. So if I click on the coin, what is the first thing I'm gonna look at? First thing you should look at is the chart, which the info you get up on the chart basically comes from experience. So the more you trade, the more you see the patterns on the chart. We'll look at this info. So okay, we see 8% insiders, 6% bundles, 30% top 10 holders, which is not too good. And then we'll look at the bubble map. You can see that there are clusters and some people are holding quite a bit of the token. You can see over here there are some insiders, which is basically this. And then you go ahead and look at the ticker. So the ticker is basically the name. It's called Hood, which is basically a simple ticker, so that's really good. You look at the picture and look, let me see. The picture is pretty blurry, the picture is not that good, and it doesn't make too much sense. So that's a pretty bad sign, because you want the picture to be clean, you want the ticker to be simple and understandable, because the more the coin appeals to people, the better it's gonna be. Because the whole point of a meme coin running, it's not about the utility of the coin, it's not about the value it provides. It's all about, okay, I don't know what happened here, value. It's all about the attention it gets. So the attention is based on how good the coin is and how relevant it is. So if we go ahead and look at this, we're gonna see an X post of a person talking about Hood geniuses. Basically here you can see that this was posted a day ago by a person with 100,000 followers, which is pretty good, but it's not as relevant because it was done a day ago. So you can read all of these and you can base how good the coin is by the narrative. And the narrative stands for the meaning of the coin. Like, why would it run? What's behind the coin? Like, what does it even mean? If we go over here, this Pax coin, we can see now the bundles 25%, not that good. 20% top holders, which is fine. A bit of clusters over here, which is pretty much fine. Then we'll look at the coin. The ticker is pretty good. It's called Max coin, which is pretty easy to understand. the picture of the coin is pretty solid. You can see that it's a coin that failed in 2014 because it collapsed, and now a person just decided to make a meme coin about it because he wants to kind of revive it. And because it's about the OG days of cryptocurrency, it might do well, just as it did now. It went to migrated coins, which is pretty good. So how can you find these good narratives? Basically, it comes from just your expertise. The more time you spend looking at these coins, the more you're gonna know. So this is how I trade. You look at different coins, you look at the narratives. If you spot something good, which makes sense, which is simple to understand, and it is relevant right now, you do realize it might do well, then you buy in and you make money from it. Of course, it's not guaranteed. Of course, people do lose money, but if you're trading with a strategy and you're always trying to get better, you do have a great percentage at making a lot of money from it. So now that we covered how to find good coins, how to spot good narratives, and how to use the filters to your advantage, I will now show you a part which is just as important as all of that combined, which is your mentality and your risk management. Of course, there are a lot of things that go into meme coins because they're tied up with real money. And when you either make or lose money, your emotions spike up, which is the biggest part of trading, your emotions. And it's not just about meme coins, it's about trading in general. When you hit a big trade or even a big loss, your emotions kick in and you start revenge trading, which is literally the worst thing you can do for yourself. And by the way, I want you to take notes on this because this is really important and you will definitely need this. You might think that you don't need the mentality and the risk management right now, but trust me, it is the most crucial step of getting profitable with meme coins. When your emotions kick in and you, for example, lose money, you start revenge trading because you want to make your capital back. And if you win money, you get confident, which is just as bad as confident, which is just as bad as starting to revenge trade. Because here you just want to make more money with that you just lost, and here you think that you're like the biggest top dog and you know how to trade, and you start aping literally everything with a huge amount of your portfolio, and you just basically lose everything very fast from doing it. So your mentality and approach to meme coins should always be emotionless. You shouldn't feel anything from winning. Of course it's gonna feel good, right? But you shouldn't get all too excited from winning or losing trades, because you know it's a part of a process, and you know that if you actually keep being emotionless, you will get used to money. You'll get used to losing money, you'll get used to winning money, and it will become a daily part of your life. So listen to what I'm saying right now and take fucking notes, because this is very important. And I know I'm cursing, but I just want to get to you that this is very important. This is how I personally lost a bunch of money, and this is how basically people lose like thousands and thousands trading, and they never get profitable because they can't control their emotions, which I'm gonna tell you right away is not an easy thing to do. And the next step is your risk management. Risk management is basically how you control your port being portfolio, of course. Basically, if we have a person one, he apes, which way basically stands for buys like his whole port, so 100% into every single coin. And we have person two that goes in with, let's say, 20% of his portfolio, and they both have one Solana in their portfolio. Who do you think is gonna make more money? Well, of course it's gonna be person one, because he goes into a trade with, let's look at the Solana price. Solana price is $200 almost. So $200, he goes into a trade. Of course he's gonna make more money, because if he goes up by 100%, he makes 400, right? Well, no, because a second person is gonna take 20%, so it's gonna be a 0.2 trade, which is only like $40. And you're gonna say, well, of course I'm gonna make more money because he put in more money. when in reality, that's not how it works. Because let's just say that the coin goes down and they were both wrong, and none of them is gonna make more money. Who in this case is gonna lose more? Is it gonna be the $200 guy or the $40 guy? Well, clearly this guy, and he's gonna lose like 3 times more, 4 times more as the guy who put in only 40%. And we know that meme coins can literally go up and down in seconds, so you have to be prepared. So you have to be prepared for anything. If you open your whole portfolio and you lose like half of your portfolio in one trade, it's basically like over for you, because then your emotions kick in and you're very straight and you lose all your portfolio. But if you do proper risk management of 20%, of 10% of your portfolio, of course it's different if you have a really small portfolio of like 2.2 SOL with like that's all you have, then of course you're gonna have to use more, like 50% of your portfolio. So you see how important the risk management is for your portfolio, because you want to protect your bag, and if you lose all of it just in one trade, like it doesn't make too much sense. But now, if you trade with literally 10% of your portfolio, like to, I don't know, let's say 50% of your portfolio, how do we actually make money? Well, we did all the correct steps to make money with this risk management strategy, because we filtered out all the bad coins, we only see the good coins, we find good narratives, and we hold them for 2x to 10x's, which is honestly not that crazy to get. You can do this every single day. Of course, you're gonna lose some trades, but eventually, with proper risk management and control your emotions, you will get profitable with this strategy of finding good narratives, holding, and only using 10 to 50% of your portfolio, depending on how big your portfolio is. Now, I hope I was able to explain everything well to you guys. This is gonna be my first video on this channel, so if you did find the information in this video enjoyable and maybe you learned something, then consider subscribing or maybe even hitting a like, joining my Discord, and good luck on your meme coin journey.